Hi guys, if you don't know me, my name is Michelle Vinikurov. I'm an individual who lives with autism myself, and I am a blogger behind my own blog called the World of Autism. I've created that since last year in 2019, and what happened is that my blog became more of not just about my own experience of living with autism, but I provide experiences of not just from myself, but from individuals who live with autism, from families, and even from professionals who work with individuals with autism. So my guest on my guest interview series is Miss Chu. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your interest in everything. So I want to get started with telling a little bit about with yourself, like who you are and what you do for.
Sure. So I am first and foremost a mother to three awesome children, and two of them have an autism diagnosis. My oldest is 14, she's a girl, and I have two boys who are 8 and 6. And what outside of my role as a mother, I am also an author, a speaker, a consultant. I do a lot of work around mental health, supporting caregivers, and also inclusion and diversity.
That is so cool. Like you pretty much do everything and like you do everything. That is awesome. That is so cool to hear.
Thank you.
I actually did do a little bit of research about with you. Like you said you're a consultant.
Mhm.
You have your own
Yeah.
consulting called Grace and Hope Consulting. Can you tell more
Correct.
about that and like what services you provide and everything? Because I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear
Yeah.
what you provide.
Yeah. So through Grace Noble Consulting, I do a lot of trainings for caregivers and agencies, the over organizations as well, and trainings related to things like inclusion, stress management, connecting to resources, advocating for your loved one, and I also do individual sessions as well with family members. So when people are trying to connect to resources and just trying to balance, I know as a family member myself, it can get very stressful at times. Um, and so making sure that I'm taking care of myself so that I can be fully present and available to my children is very, very crucial. So because of my own experience through that, I now extend that same service and support, if you want, to family members as well. We also do a lot of work around customized and so because it's now we're doing a lot of things virtual, but it's if someone is looking to enter the career field or creating a career for themselves, kind of identifying what their strengths are, what their skills are, and then with that kind of crafting what a ideal position will be. And this is all very person centered. It's the person advising us, and sharing with us, what they need and in different ways. And sometimes people my loved one might not speak, how can you do the assessment? I say, well, we observe, but also we collect a lot of information based on the things that they like to do. So watching them do things and, interviewing the caregivers, interviewing the support staff gives us a bigger picture of who the person is, because we all communicate, whether we use words or not. We all have something to share with others, and most of the times our behavior speaks louder than the words.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Some like that's like that saying that says where actions speak louder than words. It's not
Yes.
always about like yeah, you can go on and just say about like what you believe or think, but that doesn't like people don't always like reflect that in their actions or behaviors and stuff.
Correct.
Absolutely true. Like, yeah, just
Yeah.
because, and also I really liked your point where you were saying that just because like an individual, like they could be nonverbal and stuff. Like, I'll tell you a little personally myself that I didn't say my first word till I was 6 years old. So I couldn't communicate starting
Mhm.
then. So I will say that it's true that just because a individual is nonverbal, that doesn't mean like they could still do a lot just as much as anybody else can,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they could have just as much interest as anybody else can. So you provided a very, very valid point right there about like
Yeah.
of how you um on how you evaluate an individual when it comes to like what their goals are for like employment and
Mm-hmm.
take doing like observations and seeing like what they're interested in and everything.
Yes. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot about what like I work as a paraprofessional. That's
Nice.
that's been my main job, but recently I actually applied for an online college called Purdue University Global, and I'm actually pursuing my
Yes.
bachelor's in ABA. So
Awesome.
thank you so much. So a lot of about what you were saying reminds me exactly of what ABA therapy does, because it's like it's more like observing. You're
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
behaviors and actions of an individual. It's less of words. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my point right there. And I like how you were saying about all the other services you provide, such as with inclusion and advocacy and everything, because those are very, very important in our world, especially today. We need that like more than
Yes.
ever right now, just to like include, because with the pandemic and everything, the pandemic has affected a lot. And actually, that leads to
Mm-hmm.
my next question is about like how are you providing services to those to your people, to your
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, so right now we're doing a lot of things virtually, and which I've done before. Just now we're doing more of it. So people usually they'll reach out to me. We set up a time to talk, whether it's through Zoom like this, over the phone, whatever they're comfortable with. And it's for me, it's always meeting people where they are, And the foundation of everything we do is very person centered. So I ask them what's the best way for me to communicate with them. How would they want to be addressed? What time works best for them? And once they answer all these questions, then we set a time to talk, and it gave me a little bit of an idea of what their needs are. And then based on their needs, I share with them what Grace Note Consulting can provide. And even then, they still, I tell people, you have the right to fire me any day, anytime. And usually, my folks are, they're like they're friends, and I love what I do. You just don't laugh. Like, I don't want to fire you. I love working with you. I say
oh
yes, but I also want people to know that just because they're used to working with us, or we're doing a great job and they like it, they don't have to depend on the service for lifelong if they don't want to, right? And
right.
so my goal is to make sure, what as I'm meeting with people, and we start to working together, we set goal, they set their own goals, we just help walk with them on that journey to accomplish those goals, whether it's finding enough employment, finding a place to live, better communicating with maybe family members, especially when people are transitioning to become young adults, and sometimes like, well, mom and dad, or sometimes siblings still treat them as a young child, and that happens whether or you have a disability or not. It just seems like when you have a diagnosis, people cling to that diagnosis more than they see, instead of seeing you as just an individual who's growing up. So sometimes we work on goals like this, and sometimes it's just managing stress, with going, starting a new job, moving to a new place, starting college, whatever that life transition is for them, kind of helping them find tools and resources that help them thrive in whichever area of life that they're in. So we meet and we kind of work through those goals, and they evaluate themselves as like if they met the goal or not. Sometimes people are like, well, I met this goal, but now I want to work on this. Can we keep working together? I'm saying, of course,
Oh
I want to make myself available. I also tell them, if you have all that you need at this time, and it's okay to say, sure, I have what I need right now. I think I'm okay stopping services. I'm okay doing our sessions. And then once they know that when they need me, they can always pick up the call, send an email, send a text, and we can they can get my support from me anytime. So it's very flexible. It's not, and I share that all. That's my point. It's very flexible. That's not, oh, it's a 3-month program, or no, you're locking with us for a year. There's none of that.
hmm
With one time. There's people I meet with, multiple times. People that maybe they've been with us for a couple of years, but we meet with them every 3 or 4 months. So it's based on what the person needs. It's pretty much, as needed service. You get it as often, as much as you want.
that is awesome to hear that, and just also where you were saying about how it's very person centered, like it's based on the individual's needs. And that's very important. That comes with like everything when it comes to like helping or even teaching to an individual. Like you have to go based on their needs, not about what you always think, because sometimes you're not, that's not going to be a connection right there. It's about observing and seeing what the individual needs themselves, like, you know, to be able to work with them and everything. So
Hmm.
it's very awesome that you do that. And want to thank you for all that you do, because I know it's just, you know, a lot more services like that need to be out there, you know.
Hmm.
And I wanted to ask you, what age group do you work with? Because I know it seems like it's varied, but just want to clarify.
Yeah, sure. So it does vary. So sometimes when I get caregivers, it's whatever age the caregiver is, if we're working on helping them find resources for the loved one or working through some of the stress of just being a caregiver. And then also sometimes I'll have parents, bringing their younger child to work on, on things like, communication and self-regulation, because I'm also certified in auto play therapy, which is a play-based behavioral therapy for people who have developmental challenges like autism or Down syndrome. So people bring kids for that, and then we kind of do more of a family session. We just through play, helping the kids to, the individual to learn to take turns, learn to wait, learn to say
Mhm.
no, because those are all things.
Yeah,
Sometimes we don't like people saying no, like, oh, they're not being compliant, they're not listening, they're being rebellious. But if we don't give them opportunities to say no appropriately, then they won't know how to protect themselves when they are in the community, but with people who might not have the interest at heart. So we practice
right.
all those skills. So yeah, so the ages vary, honestly. So I've had younger children, I have teens and young adults who are transitioning from school and trying to find their own apartment, trying to even start dating, like, I don't know how to do this whole dating thing. I'm like, I'm not a dating coach, but they set their goals, for example, and then they're just gonna work through the all the emotions and the stress and the resources they need in order to transition through whatever goal they're working on. So yeah, so it varies. If I tell people, we meet you where you are, and so ages don't really matter as much to us, to Grayson of Consulting, because we do our best to meet you where you are. And if someone ever comes with, presents a need, and we don't think that we're a good fit, to provide that service for them, we will be open. It's not about just saying, oh yeah, I'll take this client and I'll take this person and I'll work with them. If I don't think we can do a good job, the best job possible to help that individual meet that goal, then we'll refer out, and we're very honest about it. And saying, okay, this, we want you to succeed, we care more about your success and you thriving more than we care about adding one more person on a calendar you know
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. And I really appreciate where you were saying about with the honesty, because like there's a lot of places that feel like that they would do absolutely that they can, but they're not honest about how they feel about the work that they're doing and stuff. And they they really want to be honest about to the individual about what's right for them. And if it's not,
Mhm, mhm,
you know, then of course like it'd be better off to refer to somewhere else. It's like saying where I know where there are students like from my own experiences and stuff, like with the students I've worked with, because I work as a paraprofessional for elementary school students with autism. So
mhm,
from my experiences, that there were times that I felt like there were times that students need a little bit more support in an environment that wasn't necessarily that kind of environment. Like they needed a little bit more support,
mhm,
and that there were times that some things weren't necessarily working out than others. And then for others, there was like maybe they need more of a push. Like they need to like
mhm.
get challenged in a different environment. So it's just
Yeah, yeah.
depends. It really does depend. And that's a really good point where, again, going back to saying like honesty is the best policy. Like you're better
Yes.
just, you know, being straight up to someone and tell them like what is working, what is not working, and
Mhm.
just keep going with it, you know. So I could see why there's you must have a lot of clients, because for just for what you do and just for your honesty and everything, it's like, you know,
It's a
definitely,
joy. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. So I'm going to be moving on now to where I read this part a little bit, but I wanted for you to tell a little bit more about yourself, about your project
Okay.
Made to Overcome. What is that about?
Yeah, so Made to Overcome, it's actually a series, books. So I started this series back in October of last year. So it's been a year now from the no, today, the time we're recording this, and it's a collaboration of, I guess, multiple collaboration of stories of people who are overcoming different challenges. So the first one we did was about a mental health edition, and we cover stories of people who are rising above depression, anxiety, and trauma, and more of a general, I guess, abuse was more of a general, general term there. And then we did one in February of 2020. It was Made to Overcome, the Chronic Illness Edition. And in March, we did the Single Parenting Edition. This May, we did another mental health edition that focused mostly on anxiety and trauma again. And now we're actually working on here in a month, in November of 2020, the end of November, actually the day after Black Friday. So Saturday, November 28th, I believe it's going to be. That's we're releasing the Caregivers edition of Made to Overcome, and those stories of people who are caring for loved ones with different challenges and different skills and as and opportunities as well. And they kind of share the stories of where they've been, what's helping, what's sustaining them, and kind of share a message of hope to other caregivers who are living and going through these similar situations.
Exactly, and I really like that because it just makes it feel like for families and stuff that they're not alone in what they're going through and stuff
Yes,
and
yes.
everything about with their child or their children. Because I know I know that this is a statistic right here that talks about with how an individual with autism more likely to have any disability is to have another coexisting condition
Mm,
or disability or mental health uh, condition. I
mm-hmm.
don't know if you've heard that,
Yeah.
but um, so I wanted to actually say about with like what clients have you worked with?
Yeah. So it varies. I've worked with individuals with autism. I work with individuals with learning differences, and then and I've worked people with physical limitations. I've worked with people with speech impairment. I mean, the list goes on, and I don't even like naming it, because for me it's not looking at what the struggle is rather than seeing what they can do. So people come from different backgrounds. I work with single parents who are not just dealing with the fact that they have to parent on their own, but now it's a child or loved one who needs extra help.
Mhm.
And so for all of that, my point is I work with people who need the services that we provide, no matter where they come from or who they are. We are very inclusive in that way. So yeah, so the list honestly vary. People who we get to work with vary from any walk of life, and then with technology we work with people from everywhere. So it's not just, I'm right now, I'm located in Pennsylvania, but I have clients that I actually never met physically in person because they live out of state or even out of the country. And we get to connect virtually through Zoom and other platforms. So yeah, so if any of the services that we provide are things that you can benefit from, please reach out to us. Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely would recommend that for anybody to reach out to her because it's just, it's really incredible. It really is. And just like it's just amazing in general with technology too that you could just connect from like all over the world pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you grow with everything. That
Yes.
a lot of people just like to even like build connection. That's the big key thing here. Absolutely. That's a big key thing is about with connection. So
Mm-hmm.
um we're gonna wrap this up by this is the last question that I always like ask to everybody. Like
Okay.
a little personalized in a way. So for you it would be like what would your advice be to any professionals that are working with individuals with autism and slash or any disabilities?
Yeah, I guess my first advice would be see the individual, not the diagnosis. Because if we only focus on what's on paper, what, all the labels that we attach to people, we'll never see the true individuals. We'll never see what they're capable of because we're only focusing on what, what label they have. But if you can, and I know as professionals we have, we're working with people, we have, therapeutic goals to meet and all of that, and I get that. But if for a second, for a moment, you can even kind of step outside of the box, and choose to be more creative in how you see things, you'll be amazed on how much people can accomplish when we actually, as professional, we start seeing them as individual first and then presuming competence.
Exactly. It's and I could just sum that up really easily for you, like what you said.
Hmm.
Um, seeing the beyond disability, like see
Yes. Yes.
what their abilities are rather than their disabilities. So
Yes.
that is really great advice. Thank you so much for coming on to share about who you are and what you do because it is really incredible. I would definitely recommend it for a lot of families to reach out to her because it just really is quite incredible. It really is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.